Good afternoon, and welcome to the 13th annual Tie the Ribbons event. I'm Pammy Jamar, a breast cancer survivor and a friend of Hudson Alpha. I would like to give a special thank you to the amazing Irma Tudor, who was our Tie the Ribbons MC for the past 11 years. Irma, we are grateful for all that you have given to this event, and thank you. On behalf of the Hudson Alpha Foundation, I would like to thank you for joining us today for this special online event. Thank you for supporting Hudson Alpha's breast and ovarian cancer program. We had hoped to be together in person, but the COVID Delta variant had other plans. In order to keep everyone as safe as possible, the decision was made several months ago to host this event virtually. Of course, we miss seeing everyone in person, but we are delighted that so many of you are watching us online. It is important now, more than ever, that we come together as a community that supports a brighter future without breast and ovarian cancer. Today, we're together in spirit to celebrate scientific advancements and recognize and honor those who have battled breast and ovarian cancer. We especially pray for the strength and grace for those who are currently fighting this cancer battle. We remember those whose lives and deaths have made us even more committed to finding new diagnosis treatments and cures. Cancer is among the leading causes of death worldwide. It is expected that in 2021, there will be more than 284,000 new cases of breast cancer diagnosed in the United States. In addition, more than 20,000 women will receive a diagnosis of ovarian cancer, and many of those will be late stage. According to recent studies, there have been sharp declines in both cervical and breast cancer screenings during the pandemic. As a breast cancer survivor, I would just like to encourage everyone to continue to do regular checkups and screenings. It is so important. Today, we will hear inspiring stories from breast and ovarian cancer survivors and advocates, as well as cancer research updates from Hudson Alpha scientists. Tie the Ribbons is a special event to support breast and ovarian cancer programs at Hudson Alpha. The mission of Hudson Alpha is to put the brightest scientific minds together with the best technology and make discoveries that advance our understanding of human health and diseases like cancer. Hudson Alpha's goal is to improve health and well-being for all people. Today, we'll hear how scientists are working on ways to detect these devastating cancers earlier and find targeted treatments that reduce chances of reoccurrence. Exciting progress is being made.
Good afternoon. I'm Elizabeth Herron, Director of External Relations at Hudson Alpha. Pammy, I want to thank you very much for being our MC today. It's great to have you with us again for Tie the Ribbons. On behalf of the Hudson Alpha Foundation, I would like to thank our wonderful sponsors who chose to support this virtual Tie the Ribbons event. We especially thank our presenting sponsor, Rosie's Cantina, and Mr. David Martin for his continued support of Tie the Ribbons. This is our 7th year to have Rosie's as our presenting sponsor, and we are so thankful for everything they do to support this event. Thank you also to our media sponsor, 100.3 The River. Thanks to our founding sponsors, Synovus Bank and Cindy Jackson, who have supported Tie the Ribbons each year since our very first event. A special thank you to our breakthrough sponsors, the Alabama Media Group and the Quatina M. Wooliver Foundation. We also thank our impact sponsors, Century Automotive, the Parker Griffith family, and the Madison County Medical Society. Thank you so much to our gold and pink and teal sponsors for supporting today's event. We could not have Tie the Ribbons without the support of all of our sponsors. You make a difference with your sponsorship, and we are extremely grateful to all of you. I also want to thank the Church Street Wine Shop Sea Salt Restaurant, Loring and Company Fine Jewelers, and Personal Couture Boutique for donating some lovely gifts for today's Tie the Ribbons. We will be drawing the names of the winners for each of these gifts at the end of the program, so stay with us until the end to see if your name is drawn. Today, we hope to raise additional funding for Hudson Alpha's breast and ovarian cancer program. Please consider how you can help make a difference in the lives of people who are currently battling breast and ovarian cancer, as well as those who may receive a diagnosis in the future. During the event today, information will be provided on how you can make a gift. Donations of any amount are deeply appreciated and can be made in honor or memory of a friend or loved one who has battled breast or ovarian cancer. The funds you give today will help Hudson Alpha scientists continue to work on early detection screens and targeted treatments. Hudson Alpha is fortunate to have some of the nation's brightest scientists working towards solutions for many of the world's biggest challenges. And now, it's my pleasure to introduce Hudson Alpha's president and science director and M.A. Loya Chair in Genomics, Dr. Rick Myers.
Thank you, Elizabeth. The Tie the Ribbons event is always near and dear to my heart because my wife, Wendy Yang, is a breast cancer survivor. We're working hard in our labs to find discoveries that improve how we diagnose and treat cancer and maybe prevent cancer. Even though we've had this pandemic, we've continued our work throughout the entire time because it's so important to keep making progress in cancer research. In just a few minutes, you will hear from Dr. Sarah Cooper, one of our faculty investigators. Sarah leads the cancer programs that we have here at Hudson Alpha. She and her team have continued to make advancements in what we know about cancer, and I'm incredibly proud of her work. But we still have lots and lots to do. That's why everyone here at Hudson Alpha is dedicated to using our knowledge and expertise to find solutions to truly make a difference in world problems. Thank you so much for your support for our breast and ovarian cancer research programs and for joining us for this year's Tie the Ribbons event. I hope you enjoy the program, and I look forward to seeing you in person soon.
Thank you, Rick. Our first speaker for today is Tina Watts. She is a breast cancer survivor, and we welcome her to share her story with us.
Hello, I'm Tina Watts, and I'm honored to get to share a little bit about me with you all today. I work at the Boeing Company in National Strategy and Engagement as the community investor, and it's been my privilege to support and serve many community organizations across the state, including Hudson Alpha as an ambassador. Those of you who know me well know that I do not like to do interviews, speeches, presentations, basically anything that puts me on camera or in the spotlight. I prefer the work that happens behind the scenes, the planning, and then making all of the things happen and ensuring that they all happen very smoothly. I typically have others that go on the stage and speak in the spotlight. So when an event or an announcement doesn't go according to plan, like you can just guess, like most, I might get a little or a lot thrown off. Although, when it came to my own life, while finding out I had breast cancer wasn't exactly part of my professional or personal life plan at the age of 50, being told I had breast cancer was not actually a complete shock. The reason for that was that my mom had been diagnosed with breast cancer 18 years earlier. And at the time she was diagnosed, my three sisters and I were told that we should get annual mammograms since there was a slight chance that it could be hereditary. Although we know now that only 5 to 10% of people diagnosed with breast cancer have a family history of the disease. My mom at the time wasn't offered genetic testing then, so from the information she was provided, she chose to have a lumpectomy and radiation treatment. And then when I was diagnosed in 2018 with ER positive, PR positive, HER2 negative breast cancer, I was able to have genetic testing to see if I had the BRCA1 or 2 gene, since that direct link with the family member was there, and I did not. 1 year later, my older sister was diagnosed with the same type of breast cancer, and then 6 months after that, my mother's breast cancer actually returned. And then at that time, my mother and my other 2 sisters were genetically tested shortly thereafter, and not one of us carries a genetic marker for breast cancer, or at least one that has been identified at this point. There is good news, though, because we knew the importance of staying on top of our annual physicals and mammograms. All of us caught our breast cancer in its earliest stages. So to me, it's really important that we all arm ourselves with knowledge, get genetic testing, and be our own advocates. It's our right as patients and survivors to ask questions of our medical team and have an active voice in our care. After all, it's our lives that are on the line, and we matter. The most poignant thing I've learned on my breast cancer journey is that survivor's guilt is real. I've felt the guilt as many of my fellow pink sisters are fighting a more involved battle or have passed away from metastatic breast cancer. Their situations remind me of how fleeting life with breast cancer diagnosis can be. The reality is that too many are still dying from cancer. Survival rates for breast cancer have thankfully increased dramatically. More than 80% of women who develop breast cancer will now live beyond 5 years. 40 years ago, even 20 years ago, when my mom was diagnosed, it was only around half of that. But that doesn't mean we've got breast cancer under control. Imagine for a moment the possibility of living in a world where breast cancer has no power over our life, where the fear, pain, uncertainty, helplessness, loss, and anger we currently feel are replaced with answers and the ability to act. Imagine a day when we can tell every woman what her risk of breast cancer is. Imagine personalized health and lifestyle plans to help stop the disease from developing, and routine blood tests that could even detect breast cancer at its very earliest stages. Imagine treatments that could stop breast cancer before it even gets a chance to take hold. Secondary breast cancer will no longer kill. We'll be able to contain it, control it, live with it, but never die from it. I fully believe that research holds the key to all of this, and HudsonAlpha continues to play such an important role for us. By bringing together everyone affected by the disease along with those working to stop it, this Tie the Ribbons event will provide HudsonAlpha funding for research that could help identify new genetic markers, improve early diagnosis, develop new treatments, and prevent all types of breast cancer. As I've taken a few pauses and assessed my life since diagnosis 3 years ago, I'm reminded of 4 things. First, things don't always turn out the way you plan. I am stronger than even I thought I was. Information is power, and life is short and should be enjoyed to the fullest. So, here's to another year, and what a gift another year is. Here's to seeing beautiful scars as reminders we survived. Here's to patched up hearts that must keep on beating to the rhythm of life. And here's to fellow life's journey survivors of your own battles and hardships, and to the hallelujahs sung in the midst of it all.
Thank you so much for your inspiring words, Tina. Now I would like to introduce Dr. Sarah Cooper, Hudson Alpha faculty member and leader of the Information is Power program.
Hi, welcome to the Tie the Ribbons event. We are really excited to have you here with us, and I'm excited to tell you about the Breast and Ovarian Cancer Research Program at Hudson Alpha. First, I want to thank Tina for sharing her story and thank Pammy for the introduction. So, the first thing I'm going to tell you about is a new breast cancer research project that's been going on at Hudson Alpha, and some of this may sound familiar from Tina's story since she had relatives who had also had breast cancer. The basic idea behind this new project is that we are working on identifying potential new genetic causes for an increased breast cancer risk. We know that there are already genes like BRCA1 and BRCA2 that when you have certain changes in those genes, you have an increased risk for breast cancer. But despite all the things we do know about the increased risk for breast cancer based on genetics, there are some families that we expect to see those changes and we don't find them. So we have partnered with Amy George and Laura Moreno at Clearview Cancer Institute for a new project that is being led by a graduate student in my lab named Carter Wright. And the basic idea behind this project is to identify individuals who seem to have very strong family histories of breast cancer, but for which we don't have an explanation. So one of the patients that has been enrolled in our study is described here. She is a woman who was diagnosed with breast cancer at the age of 31. Her mother had breast cancer at 42, and her cousin was diagnosed with breast cancer also in her 30s. She received clinical genetic testing, but it was negative, indicating that none of the genes that we know about to be important for breast cancer risk had any changes in them that could explain all of the breast cancer that was seen in her family. So what we're doing is, instead of using clinical genetic testing, that is typically what we call targeted sequencing, where we're looking at a few genes that we know to be important for cancer risk, we are using a technique called whole genome sequencing, which is what you would think it is. It's looking at the entire genome, sequencing all 3 billion bases, and reading through in order to identify potentially new, previously unknown, explanations for the increased cancer risk that we are seeing in patients. So clinical genetic testing looks at just a tiny fraction of the genome, and we're looking at not only all of the genes, but all of the space in between the genes as well to try to identify potentially new changes that would explain the risk that we have observed in these patients. So through this program, we hope that local patients and their families can learn about their genetic risk for cancer, in particular identifying unknown causes of cancer risk. If we do identify new mutations that haven't been described before, we can consider whether they should be used when we're trying to understand cancer risk. And importantly, we'll share the information by publishing our data and the information about our patients so that other people and ourselves can also consider whether these regions of the genome would be important to include in future screening tests. So the work that I just described is looking for new genetic changes that are important for cancer risk, but we do already know many changes in the genome that can increase our cancer risk. And where possible, we would like for individuals to know more about their cancer risk so that they can receive proper screening. For example, if you have a BRCA1 mutation, you might get mammograms starting before the age of 40. So the Information is Power program is all about doing just that. We offer free and reduced cost genetic testing that tells you about a potential increased risk for cancer using the information that we know about. There are 33 genes on this panel that we can sequence to determine whether there's any increased risk for cancer based on those changes. Since 2015, this program has offered genetic testing in North Alabama for over 5,000 individuals. We've identified over 200 participants that do have a genetic change that would increase their risk for cancer, and many of these individuals would not have qualified for cancer genetic testing based on their family histories. So the unique and great thing about the Information is Power program is that anybody who wants to know about their inherited risk for cancer can participate, regardless of their family history. So in the coming year, we will continue to offer free testing to individuals ages 28 to 30 in Madison, Morgan, Marshall, Limestone, and Jackson counties. I want to tell you about some of the efforts that we've done over the past year to expand and diversify the impact of the Information is Power program. We've been particularly interested in sharing this opportunity with underserved minorities, and one of the reasons is because of some of the statistics that are shown here. Black women are more likely to be diagnosed with breast cancer before the age of 40 than other racial groups, and African American women are more likely to die of breast cancer than white women. So we have been working with a variety of different organizations around our community to share the opportunity to hear about our program and participate in genetic testing. In particular, we've worked with the Links Incorporated of Greater Huntsville to host webinars several times over the last year. We are also working with Alabama A&M University to offer testing on their campus, and we're partnering with the Now Included platform, which aims to recruit underrepresented minorities into research and genetics testing. So our goals are to eliminate some of the barriers to testing that can exist in some communities, to educate our community about the role that their DNA can play in improving their health, and ultimately to empower people with information about their own DNA and increased risks. The work that I've described here is made possible by support from the Jane K. Lowe Foundation and the Russell Hill Foundation. Another exciting thing that we have going on this year that I'm really looking forward to telling you more about next time is our expansion into Montgomery. So the Information is Power program, as I mentioned, has been active in North Alabama for quite some time, and we are excited to be launching a pilot this month in Montgomery. This work will be done in collaboration with several physicians in the Montgomery area, including Dr. John Jernigan. We will be offering the Information is Power testing through his clinic and other clinics in the Montgomery area, and we're really excited to expand what has been a very successful program in North Alabama to another part of our state. So this has been made possible by funds from the Alabama Power Foundation. So lastly, I'm going to switch gears and tell you about our ovarian cancer research program. This is work that's going on in my laboratory and I'll give you an update on the work that we've been doing over the last year. So my lab is really interested in understanding how genomic technology can improve patient care. And if you know anyone with ovarian cancer or are battling ovarian cancer yourself, you know that many patients experience a recurrence of the disease after an initial response to therapy, usually within 1 to 5 years of diagnosis. And at the time of recurrence, treatment options can be limited, and some of the treatments that had been successful in getting rid of the disease before are not as effective at the time of recurrence. So our research is really interested in understanding why do tumors fail to respond to chemotherapy at the time of recurrence? What markers can we identify that would help us predict how well a patient is going to respond to a treatment? Should they get the same drugs that they have had before, or should they get something different? And how can the immune system be stimulated to improve how a patient will respond to existing treatments? This year, we have continued to collaborate with Dr. Rebecca Aaron, a GYN oncologist at the University of Alabama in Birmingham. We have identified a new pathway that controls how the immune system responds to ovarian cancer. We have identified molecular signatures in tumor tissues that can be used to help predict treatment response. And we've analyzed molecular profiles of something called ascites, which are cells in the abdominal cavity that derive from the primary tumor, and one might expect them to be similar to the tumor, but what we found is that there are significant differences between those cells, which would suggest that different or combinations of therapies or strategies may be necessary to eliminate all of the tumor cells. So we're really excited about the discoveries that we've made this year, and before I tell you about what we are working on now, I thought it would be fun, since we are in this virtual format, to do something a little different. What we'd like to do is take you behind the scenes. So this is something we can't do when we have 1,300 people in the VBC, but since we're in the virtual format, we thought this would be a great time for you to come behind the scenes and see what goes on in our lab. You may have heard scientists talk about using cell lines for research. These are cells that come from ovarian cancer tumors that were surgically removed from a patient and, with her consent, grown in a lab. Cell lines are a critical tool for understanding ovarian cancer. We can design experiments to test how different drugs or genetic changes affect these cells. Many of these experiments are too difficult, too expensive, or even impossible to do in a patient. Cell lines are stored in very cold freezer called the liquid nitrogen freezer that keeps the cells at minus 200 degrees Celsius. At the beginning of an experiment, we remove these cells from the freezer, thaw them, and quickly bring them back to body temperature, or 37 degrees. Believe it or not, under certain conditions, these cells survive and grow after being frozen. To grow cells after being frozen, we isolate the cells using a centrifuge that spins the cells quickly and separates them from the liquid that they're stored in. We remove the cells from their freezing conditions and place them in plastic dishes or flasks. Then we add media, which is a liquid containing all the nutrients that they need to grow and divide. We use these cells to do many different kinds of experiments. We can test how these cells respond to drugs and whether turning on or turning off certain genes changes how the cells respond to those drugs. We use microscopes to visualize the cells, count how many cells are alive or dead, and even measure how quickly the cells can grow and migrate across the surface of a plate. Metastasis, or the spread of cells from the tumor to other locations in the body, occurs when cells gain the ability to migrate. Our experiments in the dish mimic those conditions and measure how quickly the cells can move. Many of our experiments are designed to find a gene that changes how well cells respond to drug treatment. We often start with thousands of possible candidates and narrow it down to just a few top genes. We test those genes and determine whether turning them on or off will change how well the drug can kill the tumor cells. These experiments use fluorescent dyes that can be seen inside the cells using a microscope. Our top genes can be used to help identify new drugs that can be used in the treatment of ovarian cancer. This work can only be done at a large scale in cell lines and will lead to future experiments that can test these strategies in animals and eventually in humans. So I hope you enjoyed seeing what goes on in our lab every day, and I wanted to tell you a little bit about the projects that are going on right now in our lab before we close today. So as I talked about a little bit in our behind the scenes tour, we are developing new models of ovarian cancer, and we are able to use cells not just from the tumors, but also from the immune cells to help understand how tumor cells and immune cells interact with one another. We continue our hunt for genes that are important for drug resistance in ovarian cancer, and we hope that we can continue to use these results to predict how patients will respond to existing treatments and hopefully how they will respond to new treatments as they're developed as well. Finally, our research will identify new treatment strategies that can be developed through collaborative efforts with our clinician colleagues and the chemists that can help us design those drugs that we need to develop new treatment strategies. So I'm really excited about the work that we're doing, and I want to end by telling you about what this means for the patients that are facing ovarian cancer right now. So we know that patients need more treatment options. I described how patients that are undergoing a recurrence often don't have very many options. We know that clinicians need more information about how to best choose the right strategy for their patients, and our efforts are aimed at providing better predictions that can help clinicians and their patients and have a better and more effective treatment options for patients at all stages of the disease. So I want to end by thanking the women out there who have battled and are battling this terrible disease. Your perseverance is really part of what motivates us to get up in the morning and get in the lab and work so hard to develop these new treatments that we know are so desperately needed. So shortly you're going to be hearing from one of the women who is facing this cancer, Basie Holland. You'll hear from her in just a few minutes. I want to end by just saying thank you so much for being here with us today. We really appreciate your support. Thank you, and have a good afternoon.
Thank you so much, Dr. Cooper. Now, I would like to introduce Basie Holland Shuey, who will share her journey with ovarian cancer.
I'm so grateful to all of you who have shared these stories, your stories, in the past that have inspired me and given me courage and hope. And I will share my story with you. 14 years ago, I was diagnosed with ovarian cancer, stage 3C. And 9 years ago, I was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. I was totally unaware that I had any sickness at all. I was in the midst of teaching in Nashville. I was in the midst of completing doctoral studies and doing seminary work and having a husband and a home that was far away. I only had some very minor stomach issues, and so when I came home for Easter break, I consulted with my doctor, and he tapped on my stomach and sent me very quickly for tests, and within about 24 hours I was on the operating table, and an exceptional surgeon did an amazing surgery for stage 3 ovarian cancer. However, after I was discharged, I was only home for a few days when I became sick again. And this time I was in the hospital in ICU for several months. And what happened, which is not so unusual with extensive cancers, is I developed an infection. I was in and out of the hospital, and I was in and out of hospice. And mostly everyone had given up hope. My body went into sepsis. I had extensive C. diff colitis and gastrointestinal bleeding. My whole body was spinning apart. During these months, I received incredible support and acts of kindness from nursing staff in ICU, from friends and colleagues, from so many who came and offered their support. Following many months of recovery from this illness, I had to make a decision about chemotherapy. This was a great fear for me. When I got my cancer diagnosis, I had never been sick. I had never even had an IV. I'd never broken a bone. And chemotherapy and cancer, of course, were the greatest fears. And so I left and I went to the river. I went to my favorite Arkansas river in the Ozarks, and I spent a month there with my husband and camper and our pets, and I took time to discern what felt right in my life. And I decided that yes, from all the research that I did there, the studies, and from my own prayers and discernment, I was ready by October 31st. And so on Halloween, I began my 6 months of extensive chemotherapy. I felt after all of that everything had been taken away from me. The rugs had been pulled out from under me. All of the studies that I was attempting, all of the plans that I had for teaching and for ordination were never going to happen because I had absolutely no energy to do anything. Somehow, what seemed impossible became probable. And I managed within the next 3 years to complete seminary, to complete my doctoral program I'd been working on for 5 years, to be ordained as an Episcopal priest, and then to serve as a pastor and minister in a small church here in Huntsville. But I was, again, unaware of the stress and of the responsibilities. And so Along with those was a constant monitoring of my health. And within a short time, in 2013, just 5 years after my ovarian cancer and my very excruciating illness, I came down with pancreatic cancer. Amazingly, my GP discovered it early, and an exceptional surgeon again did the surgery that has allowed me to still be here today. I also lost most of my organs. I would say at least half of my organs are gone, along with a total colonectomy. And what I joke about is that there's a lot of space in here for the Holy Spirit. And so hopefully there's a lot going on that is beautiful and positive. And I'm still alive, and I'm amazingly well. So what have I learned? So many things, and there's only time to share a few of them. I've learned to go slower, to accomplish less, to be present, fully present to my life each day. Gratitude has become a habit, along with prioritizing silence and peacefulness and joy, especially joy in nature, on the river, in our camper. I choose to look upon my illness more as a cold or a broken hip or an annoying, painful thorn in my flesh, and to say, why not me? Why not me? I try to find at least 3 positives in every difficult challenge. Some of them will be very humorous, some of them improbable, and some of them extremely funny. But I found that this practice has opened a space for new possibilities and for unimaginable options to come out of the difficulty. Search for inspirational stories. Look for courage and hope in the world. Progress is moving swiftly, as we have heard. The diagnosis and treatment of cancer is becoming more chronic rather than fatal. Find the best doctors for your specific disease and commit to your health and your wholeness. Deepen your inner spiritual resources. Develop them now and nourish them now. There is good news everywhere. There's joy and acts of kindness all around. Your life matters. You matter more than you know. And within you, there's more courage, more resilience, more possibility than you can possibly imagine. Be at peace. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Basie. We have heard from Tina and Basie, 2 amazing survivors. We know how these diseases affect not only patients, but families and friends. I know firsthand because of the love and support I received throughout my diagnosis and treatment. I would like to introduce Summer Southern, who is one of those supportive family members. Summer supported her aunt through her ovarian cancer diagnosis and helped establish a foundation to fund much needed research and awareness.
I think you really have to have that front row ticket to watch a family member go through a cancer treatment to really appreciate the impact that it can have on a family, and I think it impacts each family member so differently. I know that was our story for my Aunt Quatina. She was diagnosed in 2017. That is my mother's sister, so she's my aunt, but she was the middle of 5 kids growing up. She was a mother to Kirsty, and only 49 when she was diagnosed after several misdiagnoses. She had all those classic textbook symptoms that everybody has, and she was diagnosed in June and turned 50 on August 5th and passed away on October 2017. So she was only about 100 days from the time she was diagnosed until she passed away. We didn't have a lot of time to really even wrap our arms around the severity of the situation before she was gone. But we started our foundation because none of my family knew about it, and we're a family of women. Somewhere in the neighborhood of 80% of women are diagnosed at stage 3 or 4, and I attribute that to a direct result of not knowing the symptoms. But if we can get that number down to where the scale is tipped to more women getting diagnosed at stage 1 or 2, their prognosis is just so much better, and they have so many more treatment options. And plus, they're just way likelier to be alive in 5 years if it's caught at stage 1 or 2. So her foundation helps support ovarian cancer research, including the work that they do here at HudsonAlpha. We love having this organization here in our backyard in Huntsville, Alabama, because it allows us to keep our research dollars local, and we believe in that. We think it's a big win for us, and we're very happy to have them here fighting alongside us against ovarian and breast cancer. Lots of brave women are still fighting this fight and have survived, and right now you're going to hear from 4 of them.
It is a surreal moment when you sit there with someone and they tell you that you have cancer.
I want to be a mom as long as I can because I don't know what's coming down the road right now. I don't know how all of this is going to turn out, so I want to, soak up every single second that I have because I don't know how many I'm going to have.
My cancer walk began in October of 2020.
I was diagnosed with breast cancer in 2018. I discovered a lump in my left breast.
I went in for a colonoscopy, and the prep that you take for that is sometimes failure. And I had 3 different weeks that I tried to prep. Well, the doctor was getting weary of that, and time was marching on. So he decided to do an ultrasound of my abdomen. And there he found lurking in my ovaries tumors. So the walk with ovarian cancer had begun.
So I had it checked and turned out to be cancer. After the PET scan, turns out that it spread to my liver and I was stage 4.
My father was diagnosed about 15 years ago with multiple myeloma. Then a few years after that, I was diagnosed with melanoma. A couple more years, my mother was diagnosed with breast cancer. Then my mother was diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma. Then my 24-year-old son was diagnosed with colon cancer. And while he was fighting cancer, I was diagnosed with invasive breast cancer.
I was pregnant with my first son. He was a very large baby, and I needed a C-section. When my second son came along, he was going to be just as big as my first one, and my doctor wanted to do another cesarean. In September, early September, I had just turned 30, and at the end of September, Cooper was on his way. And while my doctor was doing the surgery, he saw a little skin tag.
My father did not win his battle here. My father and my son did not win his battle here. They both battled very hard, but they did pass.
And so the older doctor who was with him assisting in the surgery said, "Hey, what's her family history? Do you think we need to, not take that little tag off?" And he thought about it and remembered my very extensive family history with ovarian cancer. So he did, and he sent it off for biopsy. And then 24 hours later, he came into my room, my husband and I there with our brand new baby, and said, "I don't know how to tell you this, but you have ovarian cancer."
The journey has been long, 3 years right now, and I was actually given 3 years to live, but I have beat that time as of July, so yay me.
Family is very vital in your treatment of cancer, and I have a very, very supportive family, and many of the kindnesses abounded through family and friends as I walked the ovarian cancer route. I want to thank my husband, Earl Easton, for telling me how often that I was pretty even though I was bald.
I see what cancer looks like every time I go to the cancer center. But I wanted to show something different. I wanted to still be positive even though I was going through this life-altering circumstance, and show that, attitude has everything to do with recovery. It has to do with, where you are, your state of mind during this process. I like to wake up and draw on my eyebrows. I'm still drawing on eyebrows.
I think about for the generations to come, because cancer only gets smarter, and it learns and it mutates, and we need to outsmart it. And the best way to do that is through research, is to hit it before it hits us.
Well, if I could have a wish box of what about ovarian cancer, I would wish it wouldn't happen, because it is so fast growing, it's so hard to detect. Symptoms are very mild or very non-existent, or you ignore them because they seem so simple. It doesn't seem to have a pattern with what age you are or what lifestyle you've left. There's not a point or thing that you can say, oh, because of this is why you have ovarian cancer. It's not going to be that obvious.
I'm a 20-year survivor now. That is a lifetime from what most women get. I've been able to see my kids grow up and graduate from high school and college. And I have been very fortunate. And I'm so grateful. But I know that there's so many women who don't have a story like mine to tell.
You are the main focus. It is your job to do everything physically possible, because it's going to take every ounce of strength that you have to get through this battle. But you're going to come out on the other side, and you're going to come out stronger. You're going to come out wiser. You're going to come out more compassionate. Once you grieve the life that you had before, now you're the cancer survivor. And you become a survivor the day that you are diagnosed.
Thank you so much to all of the women who shared their brave stories with us today. Tina, Basie, Kelly, Kay, Myra, and Christina. You are all beautiful, strong, courageous women. You have our admiration and our gratitude. Cancer is a tough battle to fight. I watched my own mother go through difficult and painful treatments for ovarian cancer. When she received her diagnosis in the mid-1980s, the survival rate beyond 5 years was just 8%. I'm happy to say she just celebrated her 89th birthday and is doing well. To everyone who has gone through or is going through cancer treatments, we admire your courage so much, and our thoughts are with each of you. Our goal at HudsonAlpha is to make discoveries that allow us to find and diagnose cancer much faster and then treat it with targeted accuracy. As you heard today, Dr. Cooper and her team of scientists are passionate about making a difference in our understanding of breast and ovarian cancer. Their discoveries in the lab provide hope that we can have better outcomes for our daughters, our sisters, our friends, and our mothers. After all, making discoveries starts with hope. Please consider how you can join us on this mission. You truly can help make a difference today with a donation to HudsonAlpha's Breast and Ovarian Cancer Program. Visit HudsonAlpha.org/TTR-give. Donations of any amount are greatly appreciated and will be put to good use. Thanks to generous friends and supporters like you, Hudson Alpha will continue their work to find earlier diagnostics and improve treatments for breast and ovarian cancer.
And now, the moment many of us have been waiting for, it's time to draw for our amazing prizes. This is just a small way that we can show our appreciation for you being a part of the Tie the Ribbons community and supporting Hudson Alpha's breast and ovarian cancer programs. I would also like to again thank Loring & Company Fine Jewelers, Personal Couture Boutique, and Sea Salt Urban Oyster Bar for providing the lovely gifts we have today.
Okay, Pammy, pulling my name out of here, and there you go.
Our first winner for the Personal Couture Evening of Shopping is Susan Herring. Yay! Congratulations, Susan.
All right, and the next name pulling out of our box is...
Our second winner for the evening at Sea Salt Urban Oyster Bar for a party of 12, and it says 12, is Rita Horton. Congratulations, Rita.
All right, and our last lucky winner is... There you go.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Our final winner for the beautiful white gold diamond pendant from Loring & Company is Deborah Hallmark. Whoa! Yay. Congratulations, Deborah.
Congratulations to our 3 wonderful winners. A member of the Hudson Alpha Foundation team will be in touch with each of you about how you can pick up your prizes. Thank you again to everyone for spending part of your day with us. We hope you will stay connected with Hudson Alpha. You can follow us on social media, and you can sign up to receive our newsletter at HudsonAlphaFoundation.org.
Elizabeth, I really enjoyed myself, and I appreciate the opportunity to continue to be involved with the Tie the Ribbons community. As a survivor, this is a special event to me. I am happy to be here, and it gives me hope of making new discoveries that will help many people. Thank you to everyone for being with us today. Have a wonderful afternoon.